Hello and welcome to Video Game Hangover. I'm Randy Dickinson and I'm in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
I'm DJ Ross. I am in Mountain View, California.
On every episode of Video Game Hangover, we talk about the games that have been keeping us up at night. This week we're kicking off our summer backlog attack with new Pokemon Snap and Crimson Skies. Plus maybe some old Pokemon Snap.
It's here.
The older the better.
It's here and it's old. Yeah.
That's what it says on the box, actually. It's here and it's old.
Yeah, it was weird when it first came out because they were like, it was like, how can it be old? It just came out.
Yep.
And like, hold on. It'll all make sense 20 years from now.
People were picking up their copies at Blockbuster Video and they were like, is this
Yes,
new?
Probably.
And they're like, no, it clearly says that it's old.
Yeah. It's like
And
when
Blockbuster went out of business.
World War I happened. They're like, why is there World War I? That's not a good sign.
Is this the prequel? Anyway, yeah. But man, I never thought of that. During World War I, did they just call it the World War?
No, it's called the Great War.
Oh, sorry. That's true. I did know that, actually.
Yeah, well, I was all confused by trying to figure out, or trying to make sense of people calling it World War I.
Sarah and I were watching Jeopardy this evening, related to, weird historical trivia.
Mm-hmm.
And I have, in my advanced years, I have determined I'm a solid round one Jeopardy participant.
Okay.
I can hang. I do pretty good. I would bank some money, I think, in round one. And then from there, it just goes off the rails.
Yeah, that's a difficult game show.
Yes. Yeah. And it gets increasingly more difficult the further into the half hour you watch.
Yes.
So, yeah, there's a good solid 10 minutes of entertainment for me at the beginning of every episode of Jeopardy. And then I'm out. Then I'm going to go watch How to Be a Millionaire or something like that.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
You don't even bother to finish the episode. You're just like, these questions don't even care. Or,
Yeah.
excuse me, these answers, whatever they do on Jeopardy. I'm
gonna go out on top. I'm gonna dominate round one and then just peace out.
Okay. Can you do that? Can you just be like, you know what, Alex? I mean, I don't know who's hosting at this point, but you're like, I'm feeling really good about the first half. I'm just going to take my ball.
I'm going to take my buzzer and I'm going to leave. Yep.
It's like, I don't know. Nobody's ever done this before.
Yep. I don't know. I don't know if that's an option. You're probably contractually obligated to finish the episode if you're standing there in the studio and they flew you out to Culver City, California to film an episode, I imagine.
Yeah. I guess you don't have to buzz in the second half. You could just be like, you know what? I'm good. They let you keep the money if you don't win?
I don't know. No, I think you just have to have more money than anybody else, right?
Oh, man.
Yeah. Because you lose money by answering incorrectly. So just don't buzz in and you're safe.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You
but
bank a bunch of money in the first half.
You got to hope everybody around you loses enough to keep you on top. Yeah.
Yeah.
And play the long
game. Could work. That could be it's a Luigi strategy in Mario Party.
Sure. Right. All right. This is my strategy. Sounds pretty good.
I believe in you. I'll submit your nomination to be on Jeopardy.
Thank you. Speaking of game shows, I'm going to sub-reference a sub-reference.
Okay.
There's a new show on Prime Video called The 1% Club. Have you heard of this?
Oh, I watched this. This was awful.
Oh, really? I thought it was entertaining.
I mean, all of these sort of like reality / game shows are, I feel like they're just the worst.
Sure. I mean, there's like half an hour of good content in a 1 hour episode. But it's not trivia. It's like logic questions. It's like two trains leaving a city at the same time kind of thing. So you don't have to know who the Pope was in 1912 or something like that, or who shot Ferdinand to start World War I. But you just have to be able to sort of suss out patterns and matchy things in questions. And the structure of the show is this is a 90% question. 90% of the people that we asked got this one right. And it goes 80, 70, 60 down to sort of the 1% question where only one person got it right. And you start with 100 people in a room and the pool gets eventually smaller until there's just a few people left answering the 1% question. And it's fun. I like it. It's kind of the kind of puzzles and games that I kind of enjoy. I like trivia too, but I also like kind of like having to jot down notes and do some math sometimes.
So I feel like there were enough questions in the episode that I watched that felt like I was playing one of the worst Professor Layton games, where I was just like, they revealed the answer, and I was just like, that was a stupid question. That is not a question you would ask people to like weed out who the smartest people in the room are.
I never made the Professor Layton connection, but it is absolutely that. You're not wrong.
Yeah, like most of the questions, fine. Yeah, I was like, that's fine. You can ask that question. And then some of them were just like, oh, I mean, I don't remember the specific examples, but I was very frustrated.
Yeah. Some of them are a little frustrated. That's one of those ones where like I'm a good solid participant up to like the 20% question. And from there they go 20, 15, 10, 5, 1. And the last 5 are just a shit show for me. Like, I don't even know what you're asking. 30 seconds is not enough time for me to figure it out. So, what I like about it, other than the stuff I've said, is that there's an app you can download as well, and you can play along with the episode. The show is hosted by Patton Oswalt, which is fun as well. And he does not really take his job very seriously, so I like that about it as well. But Sarah and I have been watching through the episodes as they release every Monday, and we play along with the game show and try to beat each other's scores, which is fun too. So since it's gaming adjacent, and I know that there's a component of our crowd that probably enjoys trivia and puzzles in that way too, I thought it would be worth mentioning. If you have Prime, the app is free. You have to sit through some ads every now and then, but every app does. But if you have, partners at home, kids at home, a family at home, and you want to play a game against the TV, this is a fun one, I thought. And Sarah and I have gotten kind of hooked on it.
I think all those shows just peaked with Millionaire back in, like, whenever that was.
Oh, yeah.
99, 2000, and everything since then has just been so cheesy.
But Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and what was the other one that was the Biggest Loser? Not The Biggest Loser. What was it called?
The Weakest Link.
The Weakest Link. That was The Biggest Loser. Is a different thing. But yeah, The Weakest Link. Those are trivia shows, obviously too, and that's fun too. But I don't know. I kind of enjoyed it.
Yeah, I was kind of amazed just how sharply those went downhill, because like Millionaire was super popular. People started to like see if they could like crack the formula, and they just got so corny so quickly. It was like, oh man. Do
you remember on 30 Rock when they did the parody of that and they did the gold case?
Yes, the gold case.
And they're like, oh, because gold is heavy.
Yeah, God, that was the worst one. The Deal or No Deal. I was like, that's not even a game.
Nope, it's just guessing. Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, so that's what I think of when I was just like, oh. It's going to be Millionaire, or is it going to be Deal or No Deal?
So for our listeners who have never watched 30 Rock, I will drop a link to the clip in the show notes. It's super fun. You should watch it.
It's good.
Yeah. Also, you should watch 30 Rock. That's a good show.
Yeah, it's also pretty good.
Anyways, I really went off the rails with that intro. How's it going, DJ? How are you? How's your summer?
Oh, it's fine. I'm ready for the fall weather.
Yeah.
But gotta get through this backlog thing between now and then, or else it wouldn't be the summer backlog.
Sure, that's true.
Well, we have talked about doing a fall backlog, though. Maybe we should just shift it one of these years.
Yeah. The Christmas Backlog Attack.
The Christmas, yes. It'll be your favorite Christmas games that you've been meaning to get around to.
Right. Well, the Summer Backlog Attack came about because the summer used to be like the doldrums of the video game calendar. There used to be no games that came out in the summer, and we had no choice but to go back and play old ones.
Yeah.
And then that is not really a thing anymore.
I feel like we're maybe getting back to that point.
Yeah.
Or maybe there are just fewer games coming out that I'm interested in. Although this year is a bad example because I'm still like up to my neck in Dawn Trail stuff to do.
Does that count as a backlog game? Probably not.
No, it's brand new. I mean, I guess technically it's in the backlog, but like I am currently playing it.
So for new listeners, the Summer Backlog Attack typically is a few weeks in the midst of the summer where DJ and I have carved out a time to go back and play games that we have bought in the past, but never really got around to playing, or at least playing thoroughly. So it used to be historically like 4 games, 4 weeks. And now that we're bi-weekly, we're kind of chopping that up a little bit. We're still going to get 4 games in. It's going to be about 5 weeks, right? But we are going to play some games. We're going to try to clear some stuff out of our backlog.
Yeah.
We like to play along with the community too. So if you have not joined our Discord, we have a Backlog Attack channel on there where you can drop the games that you're going to work on playing through the summer and clearing out of your backlog. We'll share progress reports and screenshots, and we'll all celebrate when people finish games. And we get to brag about actually playing and completing games, and maybe not buying some new ones for a few weeks.
Yeah, it used to be this whole thing where it was like, how many games can you finish in 4 weeks? I can finish 100 games. Sure. And that rarely worked out that well.
No.
But in the most recent years, I have approached it as more of like an excuse to get into 4 games that I just, for some reason, never got around to.
Yeah.
Like a few episodes ago, I considered playing Myst as part of the backlog this year, which may or may not be on the list this year. We'll
fun.
Get to that in a minute. But, that is sort of my new approach to it, rather than just going through my dusty stack of shrink wrap games.
Yeah. Yeah, we used to do the most impressive feat of backloggery. And we had people in the community who were just trying to play, all the Final Fantasy games, 110 hours of JRPGs. And in the interest of preserving everybody's kind of mental health and self-care, we've kind of abandoned the intensity of that and just try to play some good games.
Yeah. Play that game you've always been curious about and just never had the excuse to get into it.
Right. And we want to hear about it. So go to our Discord and share.
Yeah.
So is this where we talk about what games we're going to play?
What are you playing for the backlog this year?
I am playing, and the first one is new Pokemon Snap. That, I guess, is not terribly surprising. Maybe it's surprising that I'm playing it, but...
I was going to say it's surprising that you're playing a Pokemon game.
I have tried multiple times to enjoy Pokemon games, and have never really gotten the itch. Never quite seen the appeal. You
didn't even play Pokemon Go.
Nope,
right?
Did not play Pokemon Go.
Somehow missed that whole thing.
I was quite annoyed by all the people who were playing Pokemon Go.
Oh man, that was such a good month. There
was me trying to go for just a walk along the river in Harrisburg, surrounded by people on their phones. That's fine. You do your own thing, but get out of my way or I will knock you down.
No, you should have just been into it. Be like, what did you find? Where's Pikachu? You got one? Where is he?
I did the Pikmin walking game for a little while and was sort of into it, but that never really sort of reached the feverish heights of New Pokemon Go or whatever.
No, I don't think anybody ever gets feverish about Pikmin.
No.
It didn't have quite the same sort of like safari aspect as Pokemon Go either.
So this is a game I picked up on a deal a few like Black Fridays ago, thinking, well, I like photography games, and this is not a Pokemon game where you have to like collect them all and battle each other and lather, rinse, repeat, which is kind of the point in Pokemon games where I've always kind of lost interest. But if you
that's very short, into a very short way into every Pokemon game.
Yeah, that's Pokemon.
It's like, I like Pokemon games until they ask me to catch one of them.
Until it becomes Pokemon, yeah. But this is like an amusement park ride. It's an on-rails shooter, but the camera is the gun. That's not a great analogy. But yeah, so you're riding around taking pictures of Pokemon in their natural habitat. I've liked photography games in the past, and it seems super chill and kind of fun, and I thought I would give it a whirl. So bought it and then never played it, and that gets us to this situation right now.
Excellent.
I'm also going to play Sable, which is an open world game that came out a few summers ago. It's like a combat-free exploration puzzle game about... I don't know what it's about, honestly. We'll talk about it when the game comes out. It just looks nice. It's kind of cell-shaded. And there's a lot of like artifacts, and you have a cruiser through the desert and stuff. And I was intrigued, but not intrigued enough to play it when it came out. So I will check out Sable at some point this summer. I'm going to play.
It's been kind of on my list as well, so I'm curious to hear your experience with it. I didn't realize it was something you were interested in, so looking forward to that.
I'm going to play Pony Island, which is what is Pony Island? It's probably the most unusual one on my list. This is the game that Daniel Mullins made before he made Inscription. Which is I love Inscription. That's probably one of my favorite games from the last few years. I've played it multiple times. I have it on multiple devices. I keep buying copies of Inscription, but somehow have never played this developer's first game. So that first game is Pony Island, and I'm going to play it this summer.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm intrigued.
I've not heard of this one.
I will read, for the sake of our listeners and for you, DJ, the description from Steam, which is crazy. Pony Island is a suspenseful puzzle game in disguise. You are in limbo, trapped in a malevolent and malfunctioning arcade machine devised by the devil himself. It is not a game about ponies.
Oh, it's not?
It's not. Nope. So yeah, that's Pony Island. That is going to be one of the games I play this summer. I'm going to stream that game as well this summer. So stay tuned for details on that if you want to tune in and figure out what the hell's going on in this demonic video game.
Excellent.
And then last but not least, I'm going to play, and as God is my witness, I'm going to finish El Paso Elsewhere.
Aha!
Yeah.
I've heard of this one.
Yeah, I've dabbled in this game a little bit. I've listened to the soundtrack a lot, way more than I've played the video game. It is kind of a Max Payne-like, with slow motion bullet time shooting action adventure stuff happening in kind of a horror movie scenario. It has gotten a lot of accolades for really good writing and very fun kind of minute-to-minute action and diving through windows and a hail of bullets kind of stuff. So yeah, I've played the first level of it, I think twice, and then never got any further. Not because I didn't enjoy it, just because, I think I've got to be in the right mindset sometimes for a game like this. Hopefully that time is now, and I will go back to El Paso Elsewhere and have a grand old time.
Nice.
Yeah. I actually just read recently they're turning this into a movie, so I've got to play it before the movie comes out.
Yeah, I saw that too. That's kind of surprising.
Yeah.
I feel like you've got some time, though.
I think they just announced the movie, so I don't think it's right around the corner by any means.
I feel like you could maybe do this for the 2025 Backlog Attack and still have plenty of time.
Well, no, I've committed to it now. I want to do it. So,
well, I'm just saying.
Yeah. So over the next few weeks, expect me to play and talk about new Pokemon Snap, Sable, El Paso Elsewhere, and Pony Island.
Nice. That is quite a weird list this year from you.
It's very, very eclectic.
Yeah.
How about you, DJ? What are you going to tackle?
Well, I had this whole plan that I would do an Xbox-centric Backlog Attack this year because the Xbox 360 store just closed down.
Yeah.
And everybody's posting up their, nostalgic, Xbox 360 memories threads or whatever. Because, it's also been about 20 years since that console came out, which is disgusting. And I almost pulled it off, but I think there's one exception in there. But anyway, I'm kicking it off with an OG Xbox game, Crimson Skies, which I'll be talking about in a little bit.
Yep.
I'll get to it in a minute. So Crimson Skies leading off. Next is Marathon, the sort of precursor to the Halo series by Bungie. It's a sci-fi first-person shooter, which I played a little bit back when it originally came out, but I never got especially far in it for whatever reason. But Backlog Attack seemed like a good excuse to sort of revisit it, and actually they're sort of reviving the whole Marathon thing as a series. I want to say next year because everything is 2025 now. But it felt like, maybe now's the time.
Like a TV series or like a
making a new game.
Oh, cool. All right.
I think it's it's an extraction shooter, which is, I don't know what to think about that. Sort of the flavor of the week. So we'll see how it is when it comes out. That doesn't seem like structurally that has anything to do with the original Marathon, but that's what we'll find out.
Interesting.
But that will probably be on the stream as well. Actually, we're streaming that next week, I think, right?
That sounds right. Yes, correct.
Yeah, so we'll see how that is. Next on the list, this is the sort of non-Xbox game. I'll be playing Dragon Slayer 4, which is an old... Man, I forget when this came out for. I think it was on the MSX. It was an old sort of Japanese console / PC kind of deal. You may know it as Legacy of the Wizard, which is what they called it when it came out on the Nintendo Entertainment System. I played it a lot as a kid, actually, as Legacy of the Wizard. Did not really know what was going on in that game, or just understand how you're supposed to approach that game. It's sort of like an action RPG / dungeon crawler kind of thing. But my goal with playing it in the Backlog Attack is to make a serious effort to just maybe make some progress in it. I don't know if it's how feasible it is that I actually complete it, because it's probably pretty challenging. But most of all, I would just like to understand how the game works. So taking a much more sort of like measured approach to it this time.
Sure. Very studious, very academic.
Yeah. So I think that'll be fun. I'll probably make an effort to stream that at some point too, although it'll probably not be during one of our Monday streams, but looking forward to that. And then finally, man, I kept thinking about this as an Xbox game, although it's not entirely true. I'll be attempting to play Shenmue, which is originally a Dreamcast game. One of the first sort of like, not really life sim, but I feel like it's a bit of a spiritual predecessor to the Yakuza games, where you play as this guy who's like in a very, at least for the time, very fully realized town in Japan. And there's like a central plot you have to follow. There's like sort of a murder revenge storyline. But along the way, you can just get distracted and like buy drinks out of vending machines, and I think adopt a kitten, and buy little gacha toys out of the, gacha dispensers. So that sounds a bit like a Yakuza game.
Yeah, it sounds exactly like a Yakuza game.
Yeah. And I've never played that one either, so very curious to see how that holds up in 2024. I get it confused as being an Xbox game, because Shenmue 2 was, I believe, an Xbox exclusive for a while, as were a lot of sort of Dreamcast refugees.
I remember Shenmue 2 getting revealed at the Xbox presentation at whatever E3 that was, and people had a problem with it.
Oh, did they?
Yes.
I can imagine people were not happy about it.
Yeah. But that's not the game we're talking about. You're talking about the first one, right?
Yeah. We'll see how this one sits with me, and then maybe I'll play Shenmue 2 next year. Who knows?
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, that is also an eclectic collection of games.
I think so, yeah. So a lot of like pseudo Xbox games, Crimson Skies, Marathon, Shenmue, just because like Microsoft acquired a lot of those companies, and then just Dragon Slayer hanging out. I almost played Perfect Dark Zero instead of Dragon Slayer, but I was like, that's 2 first-person shooters on the list. And also, I don't want to play Perfect Dark Zero ever again. so Dragon Slayer it is.
Aw. Yeah. Well, I mean, we've got time before the new Perfect Dark comes out, so maybe we'll come back to that one.
Yeah, I feel like I will have to play it again.
Yeah.
Just not this month.
Cool. Nice. I know nothing about Dragon Slayer under either name. So what was the other one? Legend of the Wizard?
Legacy of the Wizard.
Legacy of the Wizard. I've never heard of either of those things. So that will be all educational to me. In fact, when you said it earlier, I thought you said Dragon Slayer.
Yeah, it does sound like you're saying Dragon Slayer. Dragon Slayer 4? Do they make 4 of those? No, Dragon Slayer.
Deliberately confusing.
Yeah.
But cool. Should be a good run. So as DJ mentioned, we are, and I mentioned as well, we're going to stream a few of these this summer for your entertainment. So we would encourage you to tune in next Monday night, August 5th at 10 p.m. Eastern Time to watch DJ play Marathon. I will be there as well, hanging out in the chat and observing and offering criticisms of DJ's playstyle.
You'll be on hand with the Halo universe lore book just to, to point out all the little references that are going by.
Yep. And then, a little bit later in the summer, August 19th, I'll be streaming Pony Island with DJ there to cover his eyes during the scary parts.
Is that scary? Is that a scary game?
I don't know. I'm not sure. It's what's the spoopy? I think that's the what the kids call it, where it's like cute and spooky. Although there were parts of Inscription that were quite menacing. So
were there?
Yeah, we'll find out. We'll discover together.
All right, spooky summer. Yeah. Let's do it.
And then obviously make sure that you subscribe to Video Game Hangover to get our breakdown of all of these games over the course of the next month or so.
Yeah. Because we have a weird schedule this year. We have the alternating schedule. I don't know if we'll actually discuss all of the games this year. So it may be the streams are the chance to sort of like that's where that game appears over the next month. So we're kind of winging it this year. So bear with us.
We'll make it work. But we would encourage you always to jump on the Discord and play along with us. We would love to hear what games you want to tackle during your summer Backlog Attack for the next couple of weeks. Make sure you head over to the Backlog Attack channel and share your list. Share screenshots and progress reports and achievements as you've achieved them. And we'll celebrate along with you as we wrap up our own games.
Yeah.
We'll share some updates on the podcast throughout the month as well.
Yeah, I'm always excited to see people's backlog lists. Mostly because I think it's just interesting to see what sort of games people have put off playing or are curious about that they never got around to. And also because some people just don't have games on their backlog list. Like I think somebody did a movie backlog last year or the year before.
Oh, that sounds right.
Somebody did a food backlog. That's fine. I guess technically we never said it had to be video games, so that's on us. So just go wild.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that there's always sort of like a secondary conversation that kind of comes with the Backlog Attack about like how people spend their time and how as an adult you find time to play video games and how you consume games and stuff like that. So dive in if you want to explore those topics with us.
Yeah.
Last week, you streamed the old Pokemon Snap.
Yes.
The plan was originally I was going to stream new Pokemon Snap, but I was feeling a little under the weather. So DJ, being the creative guy that he is, pivoted to playing the old 1999 Nintendo 64. Is that right?
Yes.
Pokemon Snap. So
all I had was the old Pokemon Snap. Didn't have the fancy new one.
How was that experience?
I thought it was really good. I had never played this before, but it's on the Switch thing. If you have the online expansion, you have access to the N64 games. I, of course, have my fancy Switch N64 controller, so I was very pleased to have another excuse to drag that thing out, as dust that off and charge it up. Man, it's a whole process trying to play one of these N64 games. But I was very curious about this as well. I'm curious to hear what you think about the new one. But also not having played the original Pokemon Snap, I had an idea of what it was about, but was honestly expecting it to be a little rough because it's quite old. I don't know how sort of fully fleshed out it was as just a video game that you would play. But I ended up having a lot of fun with it. I thought it was really good. I think I probably would have been super into it if I had played it back in the day.
Yeah. I think it is sort of like...
Well, here's the thing. I think this game, paying whatever you had to pay for N64 cartridges back then, it was $70 or $80. That is... I don't know if I would have been able to handle that aspect of it, but just having it available on the Switch for my the price of my subscription, whatever I'm paying for that, it's hard to turn down. Yeah,
that's quite a coup, I think, definitely. Yeah, this is and I am not a Pokemon historian by any means. I think the original Pokemon Snap is quite beloved, I think, in the Pokemon circles.
I think so.
And yeah, people were hungry for a sequel for a very long time that never came.
They were.
So it was a bit of a miracle that in 2021 there was finally a new Pokemon Snap.
This already that old?
I believe it was 2021. Yeah, it's about 3 years old. Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, man. Well, it's still fairly new.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's still, it's this generation. It's a Nintendo Switch game. So,
yes, that's true.
Yeah. It's, so I've been playing quite a bit of this. I have a few little quibbles with it, which is probably not surprising. But I'm trying to be open to the Pokemon-ness of it, and not be overly critical. It is, it's kind of an odd bird for a video game. It's you are a young research assistant who volunteers to work with Professor Mirror, who is trying to sort of do like a research project of taking photographs of all of the Pokemon in their natural habitat, not in like fighting stance or fighting arenas or collecting them all kind of mode, but just observing them without really kind of interacting with them or trying to capture them or fighting them. So yeah, you get like quickly a camera and a few little like tricks over the course of the early levels to like collect fruit and throw them at the Pokemons, and sometimes they'll be very happy about this. You get the ability eventually to play a little bit of music, and sometimes they will. You play a little bit of music, and sometimes you get little impromptu reactions, and they'll dance and sing along. And you're trying to collect photographs of all of these Pokemon, just doing Pokemon things out in the world. You're not fighting them or battling them. In fact, you can't really even kind of walk around and like look for them because you're in on rails little like spaceship that is
a little car or whatever.
Yeah,
right? It's on the car thing.
1 is what it's called in the Pokemon Snap. And it's on a sort of a predetermined path that you can't really veer off of. The path is not very long, which is sort of my first quibble, is that like I'm just kind of getting into it. I'm just sort of like appreciating that there's all kinds of stuff hidden, and like if you as the cart goes past a tree and you sort of look behind the tree, there's a Snorlax napping in the shade, I missed him the first time and I want to get a picture of him, so when you go back through, it's just another little like a little quick 3-minute ride down the little roller coaster essentially. You have to be super fast. You do get the ability, I've learned later on, to kind of slow the cart down, which is helpful. But initially it just feels like I can't take enough pictures to document everything I want to. The game is real stingy about sort of doling out your ability to go back to the ride at a different time of day to take more pictures.
What does it do? It doesn't let you go back to the same area?
You do, but you have to get enough like points to be able to go back. There's like illuminated Pokemon, and that's sort of like the crux of the research, is you're trying to sort of like have these illuminated Pokemon experiences, and research sort of where illuminated Pokemon come from and yada yada.
Was it like a shiny?
I'm not sure. And I'm not sure like how much the illuminated thing exists in the rest of the Pokemon universe, or if that was just cooked up for the game. But the goal is to go back at night, essentially, because they're illuminated and they're super easy to spot. And there's like energy readings that tell you what part of the level they're going to appear in, and you can scan and try to find them. And it's usually a big light show, and it's quite dramatic, and you end up taking like 40 pictures of one Pokemon. But yeah, you do have to get enough like points from taking photos to be able to go back to trigger at different times to trigger new reactions. The lore in the game is that initially the Pokemon are like either are afraid or indifferent to you. But as you take more photographs and build up your photo decks, and they rate the photos 1 to 4 stars, you earn enough like research points to be able to go back at different times of the day. And then the Pokemon are kind of like accustomed to you and like having you around and are not afraid of you anymore. So you get to see them like hanging out with each other, and you get more points for taking photos of like multiple Pokemon in one shot. And you go back at night and they're all kind of napping or dozing. There's like a big one called it's like a Buffalo. It's a buffalo, essentially. And they're all like grazing in the fields when you go during the day. And if you go at night, they're all kind of napping along the train tracks. And tucked into the little nook under one of the buffaloes is a little Pikachu napping as well. So if you get a picture of him, you get like 5 stars for that and all kinds of stuff. But you have to get these really creative photos to be able to unlock additional paths and additional like biomes that you can go to. So it does start to feel a little grindy initially, like you're going through the same like 3-minute track over and over and over, trying to get more pictures or better pictures of Pokemon, hoping to catch them doing like cool Pokemon things, hanging out with each other or snacking on an apple and things like that. Yeah, it does feel a little crazy, like you're just watching the same movie over and over. And the movie's only 3 minutes long. So I feel like it has a little bit of like a grindy pacing problem initially. And I'm just sort of starting to kind of get out of that routine a little bit in the progression of the game. But it does feel like it, and maybe I'm just a bad photographer, but it does make me feel like I'm kind of like really having to put a lot of work in seeing the same content over and over to get any progress made here. So that is, I think, my biggest criticism thus far in the first, I've probably put 6 or 7 hours in this thing. And I feel like I've not seen a ton. I feel like I've done the same paths repeatedly. And that is a little annoying.
That was not my experience with the original Pokemon Snap at all.
Oh, I mean,
you do have to go through each route multiple times, but I think it's actually a very smart decision to make the path through each route so brief, because like the first time a level ended, I thought, oh wow, that's it. That was so quick. That was much faster than I expected. But it makes it much more palatable to go back and reattempt photos or try and take photos of stuff you missed, because there's just so much happening as you go through each stage. You can't possibly, I mean, maybe if you're like an expert, you can take every possible photo that is presented to you. But to me, like playing this for the first time, it was just like inconceivable that I'd be able to capture everything. So I found myself like, oh man, I didn't have time to get this, so I didn't, like the shot didn't turn out how I wanted it, so I will just gladly go back in and do it again. So I think it's actually a plus that each stage is fairly short.
Sure, I could see that. It just left me feeling like it was super repetitive. And
okay, well, I mean, it is a little bit.
Yeah, but it's by design.
Also,
right?
In the original, it sounds like you can just go back to replay any of these things as often as you want. You don't have to unlock permission or whatever is going on in the new one to go and check them out. The only reason you really need to accumulate more research points or whatever they're called is to unlock new areas or to unlock new gadgets for you to use.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's pretty unrestricted.
Yeah, well, this is, and maybe I didn't phrase it right, but you can do the same path over and over, but initially you only have the one path, so you have no choice but to keep repeating that one. And trying to grind away at points. But the points do get you the ability to go back at different times of the day and eventually go back at night to be able to hopefully catch a picture of the illuminated one, or to like it said, like build like familiarity with the Pokemon so they're not afraid of you. And then you can catch them doing kind of more kind of relaxed Pokemon things, and get better, like higher rated photos of them kind of in the more natural habitat. So, yeah, it just, the hook of it felt designed to be repetitive. And I thought that seemed weird. I just wanted to like go see other places. And it kept making me go through like the same 20 feet of a park over and over and over again until I had enough points to be able to go back at night and do the same freaking path again.
That was a little weird, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's like a structural thing at the beginning. Eventually, like I said, I opened up other areas and was able to kind of bounce around between different biomes and see different stuff. So it felt a little less grindy. But yeah, initially just trying to get out of that first park that it dropped you in, it really felt like it was putting in I had to put in an inordinate amount of work to be able to get out of there.
Oh wow, that was not my experience at all.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I was reading.
I was really curious how they would expand on sort of the formula in the new one, because like I really enjoyed what I played of the original Pokemon Snap, but it did feel like there was a lot of opportunity to like do different things or like have different things happen each time you play an area. I didn't get the sense there was any of that sort of like building familiarity with the Pokemon at all. Like it seemed to be pretty identical each time you would run through each course. So in that sense, I was thinking like, well, maybe like I wonder how much there is to do here. Like how much reason I'll have to keep coming back to these once I've taken the perfect photo of all the Pokemon here.
Yeah.
So in that sense, there wasn't a lot of variation, but there was also just so much going on that I felt like it would keep me occupied for quite a while.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, the scenarios are pretty packed. So I do give them credit for kind of jamming a lot of Pokemon into that 3-minute ride. It is, like you said, a little overwhelming kind of the first time you go through where you're like, okay, there were a lot I definitely could have taken pictures of that I didn't, or you get like a lot of bad ones of them like running away from you and they're 100 miles away. And I'm like, I'm not even showing that one to the professor. We'll come back later.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it definitely sort of feels like, if I was a huge Pokemon fan, like I would love this. Like, to not sort of get wrapped up in the lather, rinse, repeat of a Pokemon game and the battles and stuff like that, but to like just sort of see them out kind of like grazing in the field or like hiding in a tree, would be super satisfying, I think. And if I knew all of the Pokemon in my brain, it would be like this immediate, like, oh, there's one of those things. And there's one of those things. I'm not that person, so it's a little bit of an enigma to me. But the hook of riding around on a little tram and taking photographs of wild grazing Pokemon is kind of fun. Yeah, I don't know. I think I see the appeal. And the graphics are beautiful. It's really kind of like, I guess there are Pokemon, well, the grass types that are like more natural and are like based on flowers and stuff like that. So the end of the park is just a big floral field of blooming flowers and pollen in the air and little, flower type Pokemon flying around and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, this is actually quite pretty. Yeah, I don't know. It's like I get the hook. I understand. Like I get why this would be a big deal if I was a giant Pokemon person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Man, I don't consider myself a giant Pokemon fan, but I saw an amazing time with this. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, good.
I really like that. It's like 3 sort of distinct sections. So like the gameplay loop, like there's the part where you actually go out and do the photography, which is probably like the most exciting part because it's the most active. But then you like finish the little route and then you have to select which photos you want to take back and show the professor, which I thought was also very interesting because you very quickly sort of learn the criteria for how you get scored on these things. So then you have to go through your photo reel and decide like, oh, is this one, like which one of these is going to get me the most points? Like which one of these has the Pokemon centered in the frame and which one has them doing the most interesting thing. I sort of wish there was like more nuance to it because it very quickly you figure out that it's like, oh, it just needs to be centered and it needs to be as large as possible in the photo and it needs to be in the middle of doing whatever its like signature animation is.
Right. And if it's facing you, that helps as well. Yes.
Yeah, it's going to be facing you. That I think that goes towards the personality score or whatever. And yeah, so there's no points for like, I don't know, creative framing, or there's like some points for having multiple Pokemon in it, but it's insignificant compared to just having the Pokemon dead center in the middle of the shot. So that felt kind of formulaic, but it was still fun to go through and just try and guess which one the professor would like the best. Yeah. And then there's the actual like taking all the photos with the professor and getting evaluated and just trying to think like sometimes I would show him a photo and I was like, okay, this is it. This is the best one I've taken of this Pikachu so far. And he's like, nah, I don't like it. It's not centered, or like the pose wasn't good enough. And I was just like, what are you talking about? The pose is so good. He's like looking directly at the thing. This is like the iconic Pikachu photo. So that was very entertaining, just having this imaginary argument with the professor over all the photos I had taken. So just like, I thought it was like unexpectedly hilarious just how engaging each different segment of the game was. Like I thought like, okay, it's all going to be about taking the photos and the rest of it is just sort of what happens in between. But I was very invested in every single like moment in this game.
In sort of showing your work and getting scored on it.
Yeah. I mean, and still, I wish there was more to it because, like I said, like the professor only cares about a few characteristics of each photo you take. But
yeah,
it was a fun experience. Like I was like, I just want to take cool pictures of Pokemon. I don't necessarily want to fulfill the professor's guidelines. But ultimately, if you want to make progress in the game, that's what you have to do.
You can't really opt out of that part, right? You kind of have to participate at that level.
Yeah.
I find that I don't quite comprehend the scoring criteria as clearly.
Really?
I think, I've definitely have scenarios less like you said, but more along the lines of I present a photo thinking this is not terribly good. Or this is going to be a low scorer, but I'm just trying to get something logged for the Pokédex, or the photo decks, I think they call it in this one. And the professor loves it. And I'm like, I don't understand why you love it. Or like my first run through, I got a 3-star photo of one of the Pokemon, and I didn't, again, quite understand, like, why was this one better than the others? Because he wasn't quite like face on, he wasn't dead center in the image, and the professor keeps telling you, make him as big as possible and make sure he's looking at you. And I'm like, I didn't meet either of those criteria, and this is somehow a 3-star photo. So I do still...
Is it out of 3 stars?
Out of 4 possible.
Okay.
Yeah. So I took one of the best photos you can take on my first ride through the park, and I don't understand how it was the best one. So I don't know. It's a weird Pokemon thing, and I just sort of go with it. Like, it doesn't break the game. I don't get a game over screen or anything. I'm like, all right, whatever. I'm not going to take 4 different photos of this thing and try to get 1, 2, 3, and 4 stars. I'm just going to sort of go along for the Pokemon experience, and that has been fine. That's been more or less what I'm doing. I do find myself wishing that, like, as beautiful as these like areas are, that like I want to stop the cart and get out and walk around. I wish there was some ability to like look behind trees or like, in a cave and go like off the path. And kind of chart my own path and discover that way and take photographs that way. And that's clearly not this game. But it just makes me wonder if that thing exists somewhere out there.
Like the free roaming wildlife photography game?
Yeah.
I'm sure there's got to be something like that.
Yeah.
It's like that Alba game.
Alba's that has a version of that, which I really liked. You have to sort of listen for the call of different animals and then try to figure out what tree they're in and stuff like that. I really like that about Alba. There's that game Wingspan, which is basically bird watching, with you again trying to learn sort of like calls and take pictures of birds and natural habitats and stuff. And it is surprisingly compelling because there's like a collectible card game component to it. So yeah, I think that thing sort of is out there somewhere, but it doesn't quite have the brand association of Pokemon and the familiarity with these characters and stuff. And yeah, I just... it feels like a missed opportunity to like get out of the cart and poke around. Yeah. And then it turns into a Jurassic Park thing where they're trying to eat.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, you're not supposed to get out of the cart. It's for your own safety.
Keep your hands and feet inside the vehicle.
You're going to get mauled by a Bulbasaur or something.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Like, I get it. Like, in a lot of ways, I play Pokemon games and I don't get it. I think my experience with them sometimes is like, this is the biggest selling game of the year. Like, I don't quite understand like the emotional attachment people have to Pokemon. I'm not the right generation, obviously. I'm not the target audience. Although there is some like, I guess an argument to be had of like, are they trying to get kids or are they trying to get 40-year-olds who remember what it was like to play this game when they were a kid? Probably both.
Wait, right? You're saying like, was Pokemon Snap the biggest selling game of the year? Or are you talking about Pokemon games in general?
Pokemon in general, right?
I mean, that's a completely different game.
Right. But it's
like playing Dr. Mario, and you're just like, I don't understand what people see in these Super Mario Brothers games.
Yeah. Yeah. Right? But I mean, like, people have an emotional attachment to Pokemon that, like, this not exploits, but that this capitalizes on. It is a nostalgia trip in a lot of ways. And I don't know that Dr. Mario pushes the same button for Mario fans. Yeah. I'm not just
true.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to contradict you just to be contradictory, but I think there's some emotional baggage that comes with Pokemon that like I feel immune to. And this would be a much more successful experience if I had a little bite of that.
I think so, yeah. And there's definitely like a nostalgia component. But as far as like why Pokemon is popular, like they're still like pretty good JRPGs. I don't know if like ironically, I don't know if a diehard Pokemon fan would agree with me based on the last few entries. But like at the core, they're like pretty solid sort of like turn-based RPG experiences on top of just the very colorful cast of weird monsters you can collect.
Yeah. Yes. The last, and I'll sort of end with this because I don't want to take up all of our time talking about Pokemon because I do want to hear about Crimson Skies too. The last Pokemon game I played was that Arceus, which was kind of an open world exploration thing. And that just felt empty. That just felt like you were riding around through big empty environments. And there was like, if you were lucky, there was one Pokemon. And it didn't really sort of reward exploration in any way. And it just felt like a big missed opportunity, like a big empty map with just a few Pokemon on it. Like if you could somehow pack the density of a Pokemon Snap into a game like that, I think that would be a compelling Pokemon experience to me, because then you have kind of exploration and finding stuff and reasons to look around and dig a little deeper and look a little further and try to find secret areas and spaces. And this is just an on rails thing, and Arceus was just a big empty thing. And I just don't know. I feel like I wish somehow these things could be kind of merged together into one like mega Pokemon game, and it would be super satisfying.
Well, Randy, that's why they made Pal World, so you can go check that out if you're clamoring for that kind of game. So,
yeah.
I actually don't know how accurate that is.
Yeah, okay.
I talked to a lot of people, or I like heard from a lot of people that they're like, "Oh, finally, this is the game we've been waiting for all these years." And I was just like, "What about it is like how is this fulfilling what the Pokemon games were not?" I felt like maybe it was just like it looked better than the other ones. But like I haven't played Pal World. I don't have 20 years of history with the Pokemon series either, so I'm not the one to ask. I did get that sense from a lot of people, though, that they were just like, on some level, Pal World was the lost Pokemon game that the Pokemon Company just refused to make. So I'm really not sure what to think about it.
I don't know enough about Pokemon to refute that or agree with you, but anyway, new Pokemon Snap. I'm going to keep playing it. I think it's kind of fun. I'm definitely kind of hooked on the photography aspect of it. I don't necessarily care about getting the highest score ever, but I like kind of going on the rides for the first time and exploring and taking photos and stuff like that. And the professor's assistant is super upbeat and super cheerful and is just a really good cheerleader and fills me with positivity every time I go out to take more photos. So yeah. What a weird thing.
Nice. Well, I'm glad you seemed like you enjoyed it. I wasn't sure how that was going to
go. Likewise. Tell me about Crimson Skies.
So, I never played Crimson Skies before. This was actually sort of on my list of just like games I missed out on. In part because I never had an original Xbox. And also because this was like one of those games that everybody talked about playing on Xbox Live, just online with people.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that sounds fun. I wonder what that's like. And we're past the point where I can actually play this on Xbox Live. I don't know if there's like a private server situation that people have like come up with since they shut everything down. But needless to say, I did not get into that last week. But I did play quite a bit of this. Just to see what the rest of the game is about. And it was actually, it's pretty fun. Like, I was having a good time with it. It is, it's such a PS2 era game. In terms of just like, it's like so unpretentious and just kind of campy. And it's just like, just a fun video game. I don't really know how to better explain that. The premise is like it takes place in this alternate history where the United States broke up shortly into the 20th century, And so there are all these like imaginary factions. There's like, instead of California and some of the West Coast, there's like the Hollywood Republic or whatever they're calling themselves. There's like Kingdom of Hawaii and I forget, like Arizona and Mexico or New Mexico have some hilarious mashup name that I can't remember. But just like, so this alternate timeline. And then instead of, because there's no intercontinental sort of like transport, like ground infrastructure, everything is like airplanes and zeppelins. So that's sort of sort of interesting. It feels a bit like, well, I think this is actually what the creators were going for. So it feels like sort of like Pirates of the Caribbean, except in the sky over the United States in the 1930s, which is a very weird premise, but very interesting. So it feels like kind of just an old-timey sort of like airplane, like between World War I and World War II kind of like flying game.
So what was the, there was a movie that attempted, was that Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow?
Sky Captain, yeah.
Or Rocketeer. Rocketeer, I feel like, is sort of one of those.
Oh, man, Rocketeer was great.
The Golden Age things, yeah.
Sky Captain, not so much, but similar vibes.
Yeah.
As far as the game goes, it is just Star Fox, which I don't know why that never occurred to me. But yeah, it really is just like from the way you control the plane to the sort of like aerial maneuvers you can do. It's just straight up like you're just playing Star Fox, but you're in an old biplane instead of a spaceship. But it's really fun. It kind of makes me wonder, like, man, they just never figured out what to do with Star Fox, I guess. Like, they had one or two big hits, and then the series never really went anywhere. But Crimson Sky is very interesting because it's kind of like, it's a little bit open world. Like, the early levels, they just drop you off into a big sort of, like, sandbox almost. And you fly your plane around, and you can pick up missions from different objectives on the map, and they just like give you a waypoint somewhere else on that same map where you have to go and like shoot down enemy fighters or pick up some cargo or like do a race. There's like these weird like side mission kind of activities you can do. It almost felt like sort of a proto Grand Theft Auto structure in a way, just because you're just like kind of flying around aimlessly some of the time, and you'll see a little like mission pickup on the map, so you go over to it, and it's like, oh, now you have to fly through a bunch of rings. I'm like, okay, I can do that. I like doing that. So it feels to me like sort of this interesting evolution of sort of the Star Fox format, where it's not like sort of a corridor flight sim, but it is very arcadey. And like I said, it's super campy. Like the storyline is kind of ridiculous, but you get all these cool planes. Like you can swap in and out of different airplanes you find on the map, and occasionally you have to steal an airplane, which is fun. And they all have these different attributes and special weapons, which are very sort of like fantastic. Like one of my favorite planes so far, instead of like homing missiles or rockets for the secondary weapon, it's just like a huge airplane-sized shotgun, which is a lot of fun. So yeah, it's very silly. Very whimsical. And I was like, oh man, yeah, I probably would have been really into this back during the Xbox days if I had had one.
It's weird that this never, maybe similar to Star Fox, but this, like, there was never a Crimson Skies sequel that I'm aware of. That this,
no, I don't think there was.
Sort of came out, and then, that was the end of it. That was, we didn't get iterated on. You didn't get, the Xbox 360 upgrade or anything like that. So it really is this thing that is kind of lost to time.
Yeah, it's a shame. I mean, it's not, it was never like Halo, never had Halo levels of popularity.
Right.
But I feel like it was one of those games where you were talking about Xbox Live, because that was like a brand new shiny thing back then. I was like, oh man, you can play games online with people. You can play like Halo and, this was before, I was going to say Chrome Hound. Oh, no, not Chrome Hounds. Mech Assault was the other big one. Maybe everybody was too busy playing Mech Assault to pay attention to the Crimson Skies. And also I feel like a flight simulator, even though it's not super heavy on the simulation, is more of a niche sort of genre to people compared to like a first-person shooter or driving a robot around.
Yeah.
So it had that working against it. But, man, Man, I mean, I'm having a good time with it. I kind of wish there had been more follow-ups to this. I wonder if there has been sort of a spiritual successor. Because the closest thing that I played to this, other than like Star Fox, would probably be something like Ace Combat. But those, while they're still very arcadey, they're like much more towards the simulation end of things.
Mm.
And this one is just flying a silly plane around. You've got a huge shotgun strapped to it. You can do let's automatically do like barrel rolls, and it's got the Immelman turn and everything just by flicking the analog sticks around. So it's very sort of like simplified and clearly very like designed to be played online with other people. And I'm just like, oh yeah, I guess it's too bad it never really went anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I would think there'd be a place for that. I mean, clearly the Star Fox games have been doing a version of that for quite a while. Not lately, but but for quite a while. And yeah, it's flying was one of those like big things in early video games. I think that they're like, every platformer had to have a flying level and stuff like that. So I think it was their kind of early experience with doing draw distance and wide open areas and stuff like that. So it's yeah. I mean, I remember hearing that this game was liked. I had an Xbox back in the day. I don't know if I've played this. I think I did, or at least saw somebody play it. But yeah, it's a bummer that it never really sort of caught on and turned into one of those early Xbox series.
Yeah.
As I'm Googling, it looks like this developer went on to a bunch of other stuff. They made a bunch of SOCOM games, Zipper Interactive.
Was this Zipper? That's interesting.
And they made MAG and Unit 13, which I remember playing on the Vita. And then 2012, they disappeared. They went out of business.
Well, I remember a lot of those games not being especially good or performing very well. So
yeah.
This one seems fine though. Like, I haven't run into any technical issues or anything.
Oh, as I'm Googling, there's two developers credited on this. There's Aces Game Studio and Zipper Interactive. Zipper was the one we just mentioned, and then Aces went on to make flight simulator games, Microsoft Flight Simulator.
Oh, okay. Well, somebody still is like pursuing their flight simulator dreams, so that's good.
Yeah. Yes, yep. Crimson Skies wasn't enough of a sim. We had to go a little more hardcore.
Yeah. I remember being kind of surprised that I was hearing about this game as much as I was back then, because even at the time I was like, well, people are really into this sort of like just arcadey airplane game. That's weird. Not something I would have expected, but something about it, like just something about this genre of game is just so fun to me. Just like getting into a plane and shooting stuff down. I feel like it's one of my guilty pleasures. there was like, it made me think a lot about there was this PS2 revival of Defender. You know Defender? It was like an old arcade game.
Yeah.
You went from left to right. But they made this like PS2 reimagining of it that was like full 3D, and you're just like you're like flying a spaceship around a planet. And conceptually it was similar because you were just like rescuing people and shooting down aliens. But you would, like, every other level, you just hop into a brand new spaceship, which would have a bunch of different weapons on it. And every single time, it just never got old. I was like, what's the next ship going to be? What crazy weapon is it going to have? And it was just so entertaining. So I'm getting a little bit of that vibe from this. I'm always excited to see what plane comes out next. What weird weapon it has as the sub-weapon. It's very exciting. Yeah, it just seems to be... I don't want to say it's like a lost genre, because as far as I know, there's probably a bunch of sort of like indie studios making this kind of game that just under the radar. But yeah, I just haven't played anything like this in quite a while. So it's fun. It's a real throwback.
Cool. Well, what a fun discovery. You didn't have an Xbox back in the day, so this is all...
I did not, yeah.
Uncharted territory for you, right?
I was really scrambling to like pick up some old stuff before they shut down the Xbox store. And this is one of those things. Man, it's so... I have such a non-Xbox owner. I don't know if there's a better way to phrase that. When you start this up on the Xbox... What do I have? Series S? You start it up and it like starts up the Xbox emulator and it launches like what I assume is the old Xbox launcher, which is like, the big green sort of machinery.
Yeah.
As it boots up. Every time I see that, I'm just like, what is this? Is this the game? Oh, it's just the console starting up because I just have no memory or familiarity with what that sequence looks like. So it's very funny to me.
Yeah, that's fun. I probably heard that noise in my sleep at some point in my life, but
yeah.
Cool. Well, fun. I'm curious about this. I'm maybe well, now I don't really have access to it anymore unless I can get it off the eShop somewhere, right?
Yeah, well, now you gotta track down a disc because they closed down the store this week.
Oh, yeah. I don't have an Xbox that'll play discs, so that's not an option.
Well, cool. The time is right for a new Crimson Skies revival. It sounds like. Go. So
bring it on.
Maybe we'll get one of those.
Cool.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I'm glad I finally got to check it out. I'm a little... I feel like I'm just missing the multiplayer component, which probably just never going to happen at this point, but that's fine. Xbox Live will continue to be sort of like my gaming white whale. Never got to play Halo 2 online, never got to play Chrome Hounds.
I played a lot of Halo 2, but I also played a lot of Unreal, which I know you've played elsewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, Xbox Live initially had Unreal Championship, I think, and that was the one that I put a lot of hours into.
Yeah.
That was probably my first online competitive video game.
Ooh.
Yeah. The announcer's voice, headshot. Yep, good
Iconic.
stuff. Cool. All right. Well, what a fun adventure as you discover Xbox games.
yeah. Real auspicious start to the Backlog Attack this year.
Good.
Very happy with the Crimson Skies.
All right. Well,
did you say you played this? Or you hadn't played it sounds like.
I don't remember. As you're describing it, I'm like, this sounds very familiar. I think I've done this, but I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I had an Xbox.
The guy you play as is just like basically Nathan Drake.
Nathan Drake. I knew you were going with that. Yeah.
He's named Nathan. And he basically does like the PS2, he's just spouting sort of like PS2 level, like corny quips the entire time. There's this one mission where you have to destroy a bunch of like fuel depots. And every time you do it, it's just another gas joke. He's just like, looks like you're out of gas. And it's just like, oh my God. Like somebody just had to sit down in a room and just write down every single like gas and fuel related pun they could think of. And they put all of them into this game indiscriminately. Just incredible. It was a different era.
Video game writing in its most primitive state.
Yeah, that's really good. I really actually I'm surprised I'm enjoying it that much.
Nice.
So I was just like, yeah, you could really just put everything into a video game or anything into a video game back then, and people would eat it up.
Yeah. Well, video games weren't made by committee. It was not, a multicultural and diverse group of people on 6 continents trying to finish your Assassin's Creed game. It's, probably a pretty small group of folks assembling this thing, if I had to imagine.
This would be so different if they tried to make it today. I feel like it would either be just like way too serious for its own good, or it would be like, I don't know, like Borderlands or something, where it's like, oh man, look at how many jokes they put into it. But no, they're still very much in the like just super camp sort of like spot on the spectrum. It's really good.
Nice, that works. All right, we will remind everybody that DJ is going to be streaming Marathon this Monday night, August 5th at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Make sure you go to twitch.tv/VGHangover to check out the Proto Halo experience.
Yeah.
I'm
really worried that it's just going to be impossible. But we'll find out. We'll see what it's like.
I don't know enough about it to have a thought on that. I'm kind of curious to sort of see what what sort of marathon was that led to the thing we all know to be Halo. So I'm wondering how much of that is packed into that first game.
All I remember about playing Marathon back when it came out was there are like these aliens that you had to shoot, and they're very tall and like skinny and like very unsettling looking. Just I think because they had such a limited range of like animation frames back then, the way they move around is very like uncanny. So looking forward to running into those guys again and just giving myself nightmares.
Excellent. If you need any more video game hangover in your brain, please follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/VGHangover. Somebody apparently is really upset that people continue to call that website Twitter, but I'm going to keep doing it.
That's fine. I think that's what it's called.
You can always get show notes and links and tell us what you thought about this episode at VGHangover.com. We would love for you to join our Discord. You can hang out with us and chat about video games. You can chat about your Backlog Attack and all the old games that you want to play before the summer runs out here. So go to VGHangover.com for a link to that. And we would love for you to subscribe, rate, and review us on your podcasting app of choice. We're on YouTube, we're on Apple, we're on Spotify. Make sure you give us a thumbs up and a like and all that other fun stuff, and maybe hook us up with a referral to your friends. Tell them about the show, please.
Yeah, really helps us out, brings in new listeners. They can tell us about all their favorite Pokemon. What's your favorite Pokemon that you took a picture of? I didn't get to ask you that.
Who's the little chubby one? It's like
little chubby one.
Yeah, I saved a picture of him. You get at the end, you have to sort of like pick the picture that's going to go in your photo decks. And then you can also save ones to your Switch. And then those you get unlock frames, and you can tweak some of the settings, and you can kind of blur out the background and increase the light bloom and lighting. And so like all of like things that didn't exist in 1999, you have all these like photo editing sweet things built into the new one, of course. What is that little dude's name? He looks like a little beaver. He's got little buck teeth.
Bidoof.
Bidoof, that's his name.
Excellent. I think I remember you mentioning Bidoof before, so I'm glad you're,
he was my starter in Arceus, I think, if I remember correctly. Yeah. Maybe I have an emotional attachment to Bidoof.
Excellent.
I don't know. There's a bunch of weird ones too. There's like 3-headed things, and there's a giant dinosaur-looking thing with flowers around his neck, and ones that just look like a rock or a ring of flowers that fly in the sky. And I'm like, that's a Pokemon? Who came up with this? So yeah, definitely some weird Pokemons out there. Ask me again what my favorite is. I'll keep discovering them.
Okay. Yeah. Well, this will be a recurring segment from now on.
Yeah.
Favorite Pokemon of the week. Anyway, speaking of our favorite Pokemon of the week, we'd like to give special thanks again to RJ Lake for our intro and outro music this week. If you'd like to hear more of his music, you can go to spellmynamewithabang.bandcamp.com and get the rest of his discography. Get the soundtrack to El Paso Elsewhere.
Yeah.
Which we'll be hearing about on the show in a week or two. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, at some point.
Yep.
But spellmynamewithabang.bandcamp.com. You can listen to the soundtrack right now.
Hell yeah. Do it. We'll be back soon. We'll be back eventually. We'll be back often, frequently. Until then, this is Randy Dickinson.
This is DJ Ross.
Thanks for listening to Video Game Hangover. Goodbye.
Good night.
See ya.